Hey guys, it's Bella, the Maker Mama boss lady behind Bella's Custom Crochets, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make relatively quick, super cost effective, and very simple faux fur pom-poms to add to all of your fall and winter market and gift and personal pom-pom needs. These are my puff and pom beanies. The pattern is available in my shop. I'll link that below, but these are always my best sellers at markets. It's a great adult size beanie, and the pom-poms really just make it. So I made about 100 of these last year, so I got pretty experienced in making the faux fur poms. This is going to be more of a not exact tutorial, but give you some tips and pointers for making your own. You can make various sizes and using different materials. I'm just going to show you how I do it, and hopefully that gets you started. Let me show you some materials we're going to need. You're obviously going to need some faux fur. Faux fur being not real fur, synthetic. I believe I purchased most of mine at Joann last year. You can buy it by the yard there. It comes in all sorts of fun, like this is a rainbowy one with a little bit longer of a fur. This is much shorter, more like a fox type fur. But there is an endless amount of colors and types that you can find. I'll link some resources down below. But at least from what I found, you can get varying price points from about $15 to $40 a yard, but at Joann you can use the coupon. So it's often on sale in the fall or come like Halloween time, so you can be on the lookout for that or for remnants, or definitely use a 40% off coupon. I will link some resources, like I said, down below and some tips for getting the best deals. So you're going to need your faux fur. You're going to need something to measure with. I like either a large ruler or a yardstick because you're going to be measuring a fairly large amount of fabric. Fabric scissors or something really good and sharp. I've heard that you can use like a box cutter or a craft knife for cutting the back of the faux fur as well, but I prefer scissors. Polyfill or some kind of stuffing. So this is a polyester, for making stuffed animals, pillows, the like. Some people use yarn scraps to fill or even scraps from the faux fur itself as you cut it, but I like having consistency, and you don't need a lot of this. You'll need a Sharpie or something to mark your faux fur width on the back side when we're cutting, just once we measure it out. You're going to need a darning needle, yarn needle. It doesn't have to be super sharp. And then I use just some scrap worsted or bulky weight yarn in generally a neutral color, but you can substitute in really whatever you'd like to tie with. You need to make sure it's pretty dense and sturdy. If you're looking to sell pom-poms, you might want to look into some different cord options or something that's going to be a little bit more presentable, pretty. But for tying on and attaching and sewing into a pom-pom hat that's already acrylic yarn, I think this works great. So the size that you make your pom-poms is entirely up to you, but I generally make mine somewhere between 5 and 6 inches. You're going to just want to do what looks best on the hats that you're making, be it adult or children or whatever, and also what is most effective for the amount of fabric that you have. This is a scrap that I have left over from last year, but I generally purchase by about half or quarter yards and then do some math to figure out how I can optimize the amount of fabric that I have. And it's really easy to draw out on the backside with some Sharpie or like a fabric chalk marker if you have one of those. So these ones I have just marked every, let me flip this around, every 5 or so inches. Doesn't have to be exact straight lines. The pom-poms are pretty forgiving once you cinch them up, but I think I did about every 5 inches and then 5 1/4 inches on this. It is a good idea to have a lint roller or a vacuum on hand because this bit can get messy. You're going to get a lot of shedding, but basically you're going to try and separate the fur out, especially with the longer length furs. You kind of want to part it like the Red Sea and try and not cut the fur as much as you can and just cut the backing. Again, this is where I've heard a craft knife is helpful, but those kind of terrify me. So you're just going to take little snips and kind of just get the fur out of the way and try just cut the backing as much as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you don't want to have any big chunks of the fur missing. This little bit here. I have seen some tutorials that suggest cutting circles, but honestly I don't think there's really any benefit to that, and I've done both and I can't really tell the difference once the pom-pom is all cinched up, and I think it's a waste of time and honestly a waste of fabric. I think you get a fuller, nicer pom-pom by, this obviously looks round, but it came out of a square. So there's going to be quite a bit of shedding. It's kind of like grooming a lion or something in your house by the time you're done. So have your vacuum at the ready. All right, once you have your generally squarish, doesn't have to be perfect sized square, I'm going to cut about 25 inches or so of my yarn or cord or whatever I'm tying off with. Doesn't have to be exact. Again, these are pretty forgiving. If you're looking to sell them, I think you should probably have a little more consistency, but for just attaching to the hat, you're not going to be able to tell the difference in how long the cord was. All right, so from here, we're going to start loosely sewing around the edges so we can cinch it up. I'm going to start on this wider edge. And your needle should go through no problem. Just want to make sure you have a needle that's got a large enough hole for whatever sort of yarn or cord you're using. And again, this is not a precise art. Just start loosely, I think basting is the term. I'm not a sewist. Around the edge. I'll meet you at the other side. Okay, so we're back at just about where we started. You can leave a little gap. Like you can see, it is not precise, it is not pretty, and it's going to be totally okay. At this point, you're going to grab a little bit of your polyfill, maybe like a little handful. Doesn't have to be a ton. Place it in the center, and you're going to gently start cinching this up. This is why you want a pretty sturdy yarn or cord, because this could snap on you otherwise. Try and keep them relatively even, but you can always trim them, not a big deal. And then just start cinching it up. I have seen some tutorials where they sew the four corners together instead of cinching around the sides, but I think that leaves more gapping for the polyfill to end up falling out on you, and I, again, just don't think it makes as full of a pom. You can't really see any more of the opening. You want to just make sure you tighten it nice and snugly so nothing's going to be leaking out. And then at this point I give it a good tie or two. And because of the way that we started on the side, our yarn is now coming slightly, I don't know if you can tell, slightly off center. So I usually take one end and sew it through to the other side or back and forth a couple times just to make sure that I've sewn up that little gap really well and that the pom is going to be centered. So we're just going to pop it in over here, find the edge. Make sure you're sewing through the fabric and not just the polyfill. And then give it a little tie so it's nice and in the middle for sewing onto your hat. And that's it, guys. It is not complicated. When you're working with the longer fur lengths, you want to make sure you're not trapping any of the furs inside. Is furs the correct term? But look, it's like a fluffy marshmallow of happiness. Faux fur, fake fox happiness. You can trim this shorter if you like. You can make them longer if that's easier for you. But at this point, I go ahead and I usually make a big bin. I have a bunch stashed up for markets. But when you are ready, this is when you can attach it onto your hat. Again, you're going to just take your yarn needle, and I'm not going to show you sewing it on, but I'll show you what it looks like inside the hat. So I usually just sew it a little bit wider so it's going to have some good grab. I kind of do 4 points, and then I just go in and out, back and forth. If you wanted to do it in yarns that perfectly matched your hat, that's an option. You can also do it with a button on the inside of your hat where you tie it through and they'd be removable. Or you can look into doing things like snaps or Velcro or removable. But honestly, I think these are totally fine as is, and they are washable by hand. And if your pom-poms are looking a little bedraggled after being in the wash and maybe looking kind of sticky, the best way to fluff them up again is with a blow dryer. They're pretty sturdy. If you're selling them, you might want to include care instructions. But these are pretty durable, pretty great, faux fur, no animals harmed, and really, really cost effective, because if you're looking at buying pom-poms on Etsy or somewhere, it's great to support other makers, but if you're buying a ton, they can run you about $6 to $8 a pom, and that can get pricey and would need to be reflected in your hat pricing. So I hope you guys found that helpful, and you're now equipped to make yourself a lovely army of fluffy, colorful, wonderful poms. I will have linked a blog post down below as well that's going to take you step by step. You can also find the pattern for the hats and some other resources that you might find helpful in purchasing faux fur to make your own poms. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Give this video a like, subscribe to my channel for more crafty crochet content, and I'll see you guys next time. Happy making! Bye!